Hi everyone, my name's Damara, and this is the first day of our 2025 9-year on numerology. I don't know how all of you have begun your day, but yesterday when I did a short video, they had been giving me a download on animals and how animals are going to respond to the new higher vibration that is coming into our planet, the higher frequency that we are learning to operate within, and that this year is all about that for us. But during this download that I got a couple of days ago, they're talking to me about dogs and our relationship with dogs. And this morning I knew that this was what I needed to do. This is not the first time in my life that I nearly decided to renege on what I'm being asked to do. I'm going to tell you a quick story on that, because this information on our relationship with dogs is not one I particularly want to do. There are many people that are going to maybe look at this differently, but who knows? We're all growing, aren't we? We're all evolving. We're all opening up to the real truth. Pluto's in Aquarius after all for the next 20 years. But I'm just going to quickly tell you something that happened to me and why I'm standing here now ready to do what they're telling me to do. Because many years ago, in 1991 it was, I was running my Phoenix Center for Intuitive Living at the time. And I had been asked to channel certain information about the earth changes, about crazy things that I did not know was going to start happening, like the large tsunamis, the large earthquakes, all sorts of things that were happening in the cleansing of the planet. And they had given me 12 pages of this. And I had thought, why me? I don't know anything about this world of channeling. Why me? Why give it to me? So I filed it away. And I filed it away and carried on with my work with individuals, one-to-one, with workshops, with helping anybody that needed my help in the way of healthy living, meditation, all sorts of things, and working with people intuitively. And you know, over the course of the next 6 months, and I didn't realize this till the end of the 6 months, everything had left my life. I was forced into bankruptcy too. And what actually happened there was the rent doubled on the building, the 3-story building that I had rented for 9 years. So I had to move out. And many, many other things. My relationship ended. I had to leave the house I was in. And I was left with actually nothing and renting a tiny little space in a little village, a house to live in. Me and my daughter then. The 2 boys had left home already. And I sat there that first day. I had the peace. My daughter was at school. And I just said to myself, what is it you're not doing? Because something is happening here. This is not normal that everything happens like this. And I just knew, it just came straight into my mind that I had filed away 11 pages of a manuscript that they had told me that I needed to channel the book. And it was called, they gave me the heading of the book, the title of the book right away before I channeled a word. And it was called Advent Calendar for the Salvation of the Planet Earth. And when I went on to finish that book. Every day I channeled 1,200 words. And in a year I had the 2 books actually done. Maybe in 18 months. I can't actually remember now. It's a long time ago, 1991. But the first book I put out to a publisher who I picked by looking at the logo and thinking, I really like that logo. It was Stonehenge, a picture of Stonehenge, like the standing stones in a simplified form for the logo. And I sent it to that publisher, and I had a reply back within a week or so, and they had agreed to publish the book on receipt. So I knew that what I did there was right, and that this was part of my path, and it led me to where I am now. But I went through that again this morning with this information on dogs. And I think this is because I've always seen this and known this. I'm going to tell you before we go into this, because what was channeled this morning, and I don't always now have to go in and do an official channeling. What I'll do is receive the download and give it out. But this morning I just really felt the need for confirmation that I was supposed to do this. And some of it they've said is private information for me, and I'm not to give that out yet. But what they said to me was that it's not because of the dog and the relationships that people have with dogs. It's because of their need of the dog emotionally. And we're going to go into this more because we know that the frequency on the planet is coming in now faster. Every day it's going to be clearer to us that something is happening and that we need to be able to respond to it on a different vibrational level by hiring our frequency and our resonance and our ability to keep ahead of this. But just think about the dogs. I mean, when you go back into the history of what the human race has done with dogs, it's a kind of, it's like a selective breeding program that's happened universally for the last, and I had to look this up because I've not kept dogs myself, and I've seen a lot of misuse of dogs emotionally, I have to say, whilst I've been working with people and going to their houses on home visits in England, which is what I did over a period of time. But the words they're saying, so let's go back to that. This is not because of the dogs. It's because of the emotional need of the dog that this has to change, because it's not helping the dog. But even more importantly, it's not helping you. And when we go back, I looked it up, and it's like in the last whole cycle, we have a long cycle that we're at the end of now of 26,000 years. And it's just before that dogs started to be, which come from the grey wolf. Every dog, every breed of dog began its evolution within the grey wolf that was a wild animal that lived all over the world and still does. We still have different areas where there are grey wolves, the original grey wolves. And this not only because of the humans, but the weaker wolves started to come into encampments. And this is going back 26,000 years ago, longer than that, possibly 29,000 years ago, when the weaker grey wolves would stay around human encampments. So it's very interesting that we're at the end of a 26,000 year cycle now, which a lot of people do not understand. But you may need to look this up, because this is not climate change because of the human race. We are a minuscule part of the fact that the climate is changing. It's so small it would have no effect at all on the human race. It's all because of a cycle that's coming to an end. But you can look that up through going to the ice cores. But let's go back to this dog thing here, because this is about the emotional need. And I'm glad they clarified that for me and told me that I did not have to read out all the channeling, because that would have been even harder for me. But the reason I'm doing this is because everything left my life when I hid away 11 pages of the channeling going back to 1991. I'm not doing that anymore. So I'm going to give you what I've been given, which is that many people who are reliant and need their dog or their dogs, because some people have a lot, you need to start looking now for your own evolvement as to what it is that you're not repairing within your own emotional body by having such a need of a dog in your life. And And that's how to look at it, very basically, because yeah, it's lovely. They give you a lot of love. They're there for you. They're devoted. You're devoted to them. But what it's doing is it's holding up your growth. And this is for a lot of people. You know, I'm going to tell you 2 quick stories of things I saw during my coming into fully more myself, and stories that, you know, I may not tell them all, but one in particular was about somebody that I knew who had real problems with ever committing in a relationship, and just saw relationships as something which fulfilled their need for company, because they were very codependent, and also a need for sexuality too, and to be able to swap and change, never have any commitment on that. And I remember seeing a member of their family, because it definitely wasn't a relationship that I could carry on, and I ended it very quickly. When I realised how codependent and emotionally dependent they were from damage within their own childhood. Anyway, years later, I was sitting around a lovely social circle, around a campfire or something like that, and I was with one of their family members. And I remember saying, you know, how are they getting on? What happened? I hear they're, you know, they're changing their life and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, this family member said to me, yeah, you'll never believe it, but they got a dog. And I said, well, what do you mean? Okay, they got a dog. And she said, no, they actually told this person that they'd got a dog because if they could have a relationship with a dog where they could take care of it and keep it, then they would realize that they were ready for commitment, which is pretty hilarious, really. But I was interested in this, and it was a couple of years later that I actually met up with this person again, and I said, tell me, how's the dog doing in this person's home? And she said, oh, well, they thought they'd accomplished it, and they felt like after a year, I think it was, they accomplished what they wanted to do, and they gave it away. And I mean, I was absolutely horrified. And it was like that to them was, well, I did it for a year. I can do it. Now I'm going to give it away. So they never got it at all. They never opened their heart. They never healed themselves, which you can't do by getting a dog. Because the dog, let's think about this. This is so important. And this is what came through on the channeling today. That dog that you have is totally dependent upon you. It's not an equal relationship. They have been bred to be docile. They are not the grey wolf, the scavenger, the wolf that will attack a huge elk to bring it down and to eat and to feed the wolf cubs. Those domestic dogs are so bred into docile creatures, okay? So it's not an equal relationship. Can you see that? And that's one story there. There's many things I've seen with clients that I've worked with over the years. I'm trying to think if there's another one appropriate. There is another one that's appropriate and very personal to me. This is another relationship I had with somebody who I knew they had this horrendous past. And I also knew that they were wanting to grow. This is a big mistake I made, really, because I actually moved into a full-blown relationship with them before they had completed their healing. And this is something I would never advise anybody to do. This was very early on in my own growth within relationships, and it was a very short-lived relationship. But this man had this dog, big dog, and it lived... He didn't let it sleep inside the house because it was a very big dog, but it was very domesticated. And that was something that a lot of people criticized him for, because he would not let it sleep in the warm. But this man used to pat and show emotion to this dog that was amazing. Like, he loved this dog. But within our relationship, he could not do that. He could not approach the woman in his relationship and show affection. I mean, I was with this man for a matter of months, this is all. But I was just so shocked at how, whenever he walked, into the house space, like outside in the garden, he would start loving that dog. And it was genuine, but he could not do that to human beings. And as far as I know, he never went on to develop that either, because I don't think he ever had children, because he couldn't have done that. And he couldn't have been in a loving relationship with a woman. Now, if he'd have healed himself instead of, I bet you now, if I looked him up, he's got a big dog. And he can still give that love to a dog. Now, you may say to yourself, well, that's great, because that man's, having a better life because he has a dog. No, he is limiting his human existence. And now, as we move into this higher vibration and opening our hearts even more to realize and bring in the full, amount of our higher selves, you have to have opened your heart. It's the biggest magnetic organ in the body. It's the one that vibrates out, and it's probably the whole origin of every bit of feeling and telepathy that anybody ever has comes from the magnetic power of the heart, which radiates out very largely into our area around us and beyond, to other countries. It can go. I know this through doing distant healing, and I also know this through having telepathy with another person as well. But it's really interesting, isn't it, that people who have dogs are going to look at that story and think, oh, I think that's wonderful that he could show his love to a dog. But what it's doing is making small the human experience. And also, these dogs are not what they should be. It's a man-made breed of animal. It was never meant to be that. And it is only through the inferiority of man's emotional balance that we now have all these thousands of breeds of dogs, some more docile than others. So what they're giving me is this information that you need to start looking. If you have this blockage within yourself, but that you love your animal more than you love humans, which I've heard people say that. I find it much easier to be around animals. Well, there is a deficiency in yourself when you say that. You're here on a mission to become who you really are, with your full power and energy and your full love in your heart for the human race. And that won't lessen your love for animals. But what it is right now is a dependency. And some people may do this with other animals, like, horses are another one, but you really can't. You can't make a deficit in a horse like you can a dog. And this has been done for 29,000 years, breeding this domestic animal. It's no longer an animal. It's a domestic crutch for the human race in many, many ways. Anyway, I'm going to leave this here because I know that this will be seen by people who really know what they're doing and really want to start raising their energy to meet the frequency that's coming in. Because if you can't meet it, remember this, for 2025, we are on this journey of the splitting of the ways, of the people who wake up and start to raise their vibration and those who do not. You make this choice at this point in 2025. You make this choice by your dependency on animals. Sorry, I have all this hiccups now. I get the hiccups. A lot of people get the burps when the intuition and the channeling and downloads is coming in. Oh my goodness. It's coming in thick and fast here. And I think this is because I had some difficulty in putting this forward, but I am in a wonderful place here in San Miguel de Allende in Mexico, and I am not going to let the universe start changing my life because I'm not prepared to give all the information that they're giving me. Because this happened to me in 1991 and everything went by the wayside. I lost everything because my mission was what I'd signed up for. And I had hid those words away. And 6 months later, I pulled them out and they are published out there now, actually. So start to think, do I need my dog or do I love my dog? Because you know, you can keep your dog and love it and get that spiritual connection with the dog, not the emotional need. And you're just putting plasters on all the things you haven't healed in yourself, because you're not doing that dog any favors. Don't say it's because of the dog. It's not. A lot of it is because you have not repaired your own emotional field and you have not been able to open your heart to humans. You've opened it to a dog. Only because that dog does not talk back. That dog does not hold back its emotion. It needs you for food. It needs you for opening the door and letting it out occasionally into the wild. It needs you more than you need it. So do not use that dog as your crutch. Bye for now. Please like the video if you get it. Thank you for listening. Have a great first day of 2025. Bye for now.